Yo, peace, peace. Abargani, Islam, Salam, Etepu, Rahubat, Gino Lakuninani, Chief Noble Bandele is in the building. And today we've got the deep and mind blowing Moorish TikToks dropping it on your head. So before we drop this on your head, please subscribe, smash the like button, and please share this video and share all our videos for that matter. You guys, we need y'all to build it up. We need some likes up here. Uh, so before we get into the show, check out the book of the show, which is Nationality, Birthright, and Jewish Prudence, the new social cultural blueprint for melanated and indigenous people. Yes, that's a mouthful, but it's full of stuff too. So, this is a very good study book for people who are trying to study, understand Moors, and understand legal principles, right? So please check out this book right here, and we are going to get into these videos, all right? So let's go. All right. So our first video, we get any more. Let's get into it. Y'all know about them white slaves. Y'all know about them white slaves. Tell me if you know. We about to get into it. Check it out.
When the Moors came into Europe, the first slavery was white slavery, traded in their own people for hundreds of years. White folks sold their people to the Moors the moment they saw Moors coming. It was of great pride to be able to have a black face on your family shield. It was an honor for you to have a name like Moore or Morrison. Yes, white slavery was it. Selling particularly their daughters. They would sell them all over the world. And in many families, the wives and the children reportedly were so relieved when they were sold. They were better treated by Moors as servants than they were as wives to their European husbands.
That's crazy work, ain't it?
See, we don't know this because they are so focused on us in the newspaper nowadays. It seems like we are the ones that are so perverse, depraved.
The Moors were black people that dominated the European, Iberia, Spain and Portugal, and called it Al-Andalus or Andalusia, from 711 to 1492. And over a period of 800 years, they finally conquered the black people in Spain, enslaved them. A lot of the first slaves to come to the Western Hemisphere did not come from Africa. There were black people enslaved in Spain and brought over here. The books of the Moors were burnt. It is said the Moors had everything it took to make a civilization great. And now nobody knows anything about it. Are white people inherently evil? I do not believe people are born with a racist nature. No more than I believe black people are born crackheads, are born violent, are born criminals. That is learned behavior. Nevertheless, I would have to say that Europeans are the product of a perverse and a sick culture.
Yo. Huh. Yo, we coming in with that heat. You hear me? What y'all think about that? We starting it off with the history, breaking this down. We gonna keep it coming though. We gonna keep hitting you with that history, right? Y'all put them comments down. What y'all think? I know, I know y'all be going crazy in them comments. Like sometimes, I know, like sometimes I don't get that many comments, but a lot of times we get them trolls in here. We got them trolls in here.
People of African descent have likely been living part and parcel with European society for a great deal longer than modern scholarship chooses to recognize in all strata of European society, from common folk to their nobility, as neighbors, as equals, as rulers. A legacy of the near 800 years of Moorish domination in southern Europe, who, while conquerors in the south, lived alongside their European neighbors, integrating and traveling northward, or southwards, as the ancient Egyptians would have viewed it, beyond the occupied territories, marrying into Christianity, being baptized and adopting Moorish names, originally black families whose indigenous African genes have been absorbed into the white majority populace of Europe, whose white descendants are still carrying them to this day. This hypothesis is ripe and ready for further research, hopefully to be carried out in full force, but for now one thing remains established fact, that the Moorish conquest of southern Europe had a revolutionary impact on European culture and society, carrying the legacy of North African high culture, itself a legacy of ancient Egypt's North African influence, and carrying those intellectual cultural traditions into Europe, creating a distinctly African culture in the civilization of the Moors, the eventual dissolution of which in the late 15th century fall of Moorish civilization likely spurred the European Renaissance that carried those intellectual traditions into the 21st century of our modern era. A dissolution of Moorish civilization, as highlighted by Robin Walk by the likes of King Manuel of Portugal, who upon entering Granada, alongside his wife Isabella as its new rulers at the twilight of the Moorish Empire, ordered the expulsion of its African population. The expulsions from both lands continued up until the time of King Philip III, who completed the policy in 1609. It is stated, wrote Professor Lane Poole, that no less than 3 million Moors were banished between the fall of Granada and the first decade of the 17th century.
Yo, just wanted to add, I put that up there, the Treaty of Granada, because that's what that's talking about. When the Moors were finally defeated in 1492, they created a treaty with the Moors called the Treaty of Granada, and that's kind of when he forced them out or made them convert to Christianity.
Some returned to North and West Africa, but others fled elsewhere in Europe, where they were gradually absorbed. Professor Lane Poole commented upon the sagaciousness of the expulsion policies. In 1492, the last bulwark of the Moors gave way before the crusade of Ferdinand and Isabella, and with Granada fell Spain's greatness. For a brief while indeed, the reflection of the Moorish splendor cast a borrowed light upon the history of the land which it had warmed with its sunny radiance. The great epoch of Isabella, Charles V and Philip II, of Columbus, Cortes and Pizarro shed a last halo about the dying moments of a mighty state. Then followed the abomination of desolation, the rule of the Inquisition, and the blackness of darkness in which Spain had been plunged ever since. In the land where science was once supreme, the Spanish doctors became noted for nothing but their ignorance and incapacity, and the discoveries of Newton and Harvey were condemned as pernicious to the faith. Where once sedentary public libraries had fed the minds of scholars, and 500,000 books had been gathered together at Cordova for the benefit of the world, such indifference to learning afterwards prevailed. The new capital, Madrid, possessed no public library in the 18th century, and even the manuscripts of the Escurial were denied in our own days, 1886, to the first scholarly historian of the Moors, though himself a Spaniard. The 16,000 looms of Seville soon dwindled to a fifth of their ancient number. The arts and the industries of Toledo and Almeria faded into insignificance. Their very baths, public buildings of equal ornament and use, were destroyed because their cleanliness savoured too strongly of rank infidelity. The land, deprived of the skillful irrigation of the Moors, grew impoverished and neglected. The richest and most fertile valleys languished and were deserted. Most of the populous cities, which filled every district of Andalusia, fell into ruinous decay, and beggars, friars, and bandits took the place of scholars, merchants, and knights. So low fell Spain after she had driven away the Moors. Such is the melancholy contrast offered by her history. Commenting on this passage, rigorous scholar Professor Maulana Karenga leaves us with a final word. It's interesting to note that after all the commentaries on and claims about the tragedy that would descend on Africans if and when Europeans left Africa, it was a major European state, Spain, that deteriorated after the Africans left. Such is the irony and severe instruction of history. And as a bookend to this saga on the Moors in Europe, we're left to ask one final question. Just because we find black people in coats of arms, and know that African Muslims ruled and integrated into Europe between the 8th and 13th centuries and beyond, does that necessarily mean that all the black people in those coats of arms are integrated Muslim Moors?
Yo, I thought that was interesting. So, we're keeping the flow going with the history. You see what I'm saying? We're just trying to give you a good historical basis for some information. You understand what I'm saying? So as we continue on to the next, now we gonna heat it up. We're gonna step it up a notch. Check it out.
From these laws, we can learn something from the Ottomans. You see how they dealt with nationality and naturalization. Okay, let's try to get through this.
The extraterritorial privileges known under the general name of capitulations or treaty rights and enjoyed by the great majority of non-Ottoman residents of the Ottoman Empire are well known. At a time when the non-Muslims subject of the empire were not on an equal footing with their Mohammedan fellow subjects, it was natural for the former to look with envy at the superior legal position enjoyed by foreign subjects in Turkey, in a country where theology and law, as well as religion and nationality, were often confused. A Christian Ottoman subject of the Sublime Porte would endeavor to find the means to enjoy the same rights and immunities as were enjoyed by the Christian subject of some Western power.
Pause. Do you see what the Ottomans said about nationality and religion? Look what they said about when you try to intermix nationality and religion. What happens when you try to intermix religion and nationality? Were often what? Confused.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Religion and nationality were often confused. It created what? Confusion. So when you mix this divide and national movement, you're creating what? Confusion. This is what the Ottomans were saying in their laws from 1869. Then when you mix religion and nationality, we're often confused. It's confusion. This is what Moors got to learn from even the Ottomans. This was 1869 they were writing this. And we're in the year 2024, and these Moors are still maintaining confusion under this divine and national movement, which is a treadmill of confusion. We're talking facts here. I'm reading law out loud.
Yo, shots fired. Shots fired.
Right here.
In a country where theology and laws, as well as religion and nationality, were often confused.
Pause, read it again.
In a country where theology and law, as well as religion and nationality, were often confused.
Pause. So what does that mean? You're mixing law, nationality, and theology and state laws. It's intermixed. It becomes what? A mishmash. So therefore, you gotta do what? You gotta separate what? You gotta separate what? Church and state. Mm-hmm. They must be separated because it creates what? Confusion. Even the Ottomans knew this in 1869. What are the Moors doing in the 21st century in the year 2024? Still intermixing this mishmash called divine and national movement, but the Ottomans knew in 1869 it creates confusion. Mm-hmm. Moors don't study. This is public law. From 1906, the United States of America was talking about the Ottomans' laws from 1869, and the Moors didn't even learn nothing even from this. Read it again.
Okay. In a country where theology and law, as well as religion and nationality, were often confused, a Christian Ottoman subject of the Sublime Porte would endeavor to find the means to enjoy the same rights and immunities as were enjoyed by the Christian subject of some Western power. For in his own mind, the question of subjection seemed identical with that of religion.
You see how religion is creating confusion versus what? State law. So you got state law and you got religious law. So that's what? that got state law, which is public law. Then you got religious law, which is ecclesiastical private law. So public law comes from the state and private law comes from churches. And what's happening is they were being intermixed. They created confusion. Because like, okay, are we going with ecclesiastical law or private law of some religion, or are we going with state law of Turkey? It created confusion. Because religions create confusion. And this is why they turn around and say, you know what? We got to separate what? Church and state. Because it's creating confusion. There must be state public law, and there must be church private law. And they made the distinction. Which one's supreme? State law. Which one's inferior? Church law. You see? And Moors don't know the distinction. They'll keep trying to tell you about literature. That's what? Church law. Because they don't know the distinction between private law and public law, because they ain't never been taught nothing about statehood, which is public law. Yeah, we'll learn.
Yo, we stepped it up a notch. So we jump in, to the history, but now he's trying to explain a little bit about the confusion. Yo, what y'all think about that? I think there's a lot of study that needs to be done. I feel like shots were fired, by, it was a direct shot at the Moorish Science Temple of America. I don't have any issues with the Moorish Science Temple of America. So this is not, this video, I wasn't making shots at you doing it. But it's something to study, because if he's saying that you can't mix church and state, that's what he's saying. And, not to go off on anything on the tangent, but, he said that back in 18, I forgot the exact date, but he was saying 18 something. But the United States had already made a distinction between church and state. You see what I'm saying? So, the concept of church and state, had been around. I mean, I believe religion has a lot of power in religion, and having a statehood definitely has this power too. So I don't know. I mean, why can't they be worked together, used together somehow? Or maybe, they do have to be separate, but they still need to be used as a tool. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, y'all. Y'all put in the comment what y'all think about that. That's, what I'm saying? That's kind of interesting. You feel me? So, so let's look in this next video. Y'all might know this brother. He's been around talking about the rise of the Moors. Feel me? So I think he's going to add on to a little bit of what we just was on. All right.
America is the land of the Moors. In 1845, a congressman referred to Mexico as belonging to the Mauritanian races and the Moorish people. Here's the source, you can see it for yourself. On page number 8, you can see where they specifically mention the Moors. Here's another reference. Starting on page 374, you see that when the Englishmen came to the Americas, they indifferently referred to the natives as Indians and, on page 375, Moors. But wait, let's go back to when the congressman was talking about Mexico. It's not the borders of Mexico today. This is the map prior to the end of the Mexican War in 1848, and you'll see that all of the West Coast was Mexico. But then that raises the question, what about the East Coast? Well, here down below, you see the Delaware Code, Title 29, subsection 106. The Lenape Indian tribe of Delaware was formerly known as the Moors. And here's that same information from the Delaware Code from their own website. And as you see at the bottom, it says delcode.delaware.gov, meaning .gov. Now, the Delaware government admitting that the Lenape Indians are Moors is very important, and it was clearly articulated in this book right here. Is looking to the fact that the United States didn't exist until 1774, so you'd have to look.
Shout out to Jamal. Y'all know this brother. Shout out to Jamal.
In the diplomatic intercourse and correspondence between the parent colonist countries and the Sultan of Morocco. Which brings us to this point right here. that when the Dutch entered into trade agreements, the Dutch fur trade with the Lenape Indians, who we know that they're Moors, they first entered into a treaty with the Sultan of Morocco. And here's the treaty right here, which allowed the Dutch to have free trade in Morocco. They disguise it as a Lenape Indian treaty, but notice how the Delaware government admitted that the Lenapes are who? Moors. We can also see in this book right here that this portrait, this German portrait or Dutch portrait of a Moorish king could easily be an American Indian ruler. Another reference point is from the state of Illinois, House Resolution 0689, whereas the government of Illinois admits that Moorish people are indigenous to the Americas and Moorish peoples are aboriginal to the Americas, both North, South, and Central America. The state of Georgia admitted the same thing in their House Resolution 1203. And as you see, the link down below is Georgia's official government website. It says legis.ga.gov, and they said, whereas the Moorish Americans are aboriginal to the territories of North, Central, and South America. And as we can see from this book right here, Morocco as it is, published in 1839, there's a Sultan of America. And as we can see here,
Yo, let's say 1893, but I got him. We got you. 1893.
Here, the word Morocco is derived from Medigesh, which is derived from the Berber word Ameruk, which from Ameruk we can see and hear America, America, which means America is not derived from an Italian man named Amerigo, when the Berber word is 1,800 years older than Amerigo.
Yo, that's heavy right there. That's heavy. Y'all drop something on that one. Like I know Brother Jamal, you know, and he got some receipts. So go do the research. So we're gonna move on to the next one. We got some more Jews to drop on them today. More Jews from the TikTok realm.
It says mixed mode in the Aztecs. What is this?
So like I named that slide, the Mauritanian races. I don't want you to forget that. Ooh. These are the Mauritanian races beyond the Rio Grande. You feel me? These were the Moors that the Mauritanian race of peoples that could not be on this side of Texas. You feel me? They were annexed. And once again, just like they always been, what did they say? They discovered these people. You know what I mean? They discovered the Aztecs. Wow. You feel me? And they sure look like Mauritanian people to me. You feel me? They look like Moors than me.
Yeah. The Moors called this the al-Kitab, which means communication source. Means mother, source, or community. Kitab means a writing, a book, or a form of communication. This is the source of our communication. It is planet. This is the system as it's in the Zulu kin. You'll see the count, the 13 count. The dot equals 1, 2, 3, 4. The bar equals 5. Dot and a bar, 6. 2 dots in a bar, 7. 3 dots in a bar, 8. 4 dots in a bar, 9. 2 bars, 10. 1 dot, 2 bars, 11. 2 dots, 2 bars, 12. 3 dots, boom, 13. We can show you this in Texas, ancient Texas, or what we call in Texas, Nevada, New Mexico, Alabama. These writings right next to Moorish script. So it shows the synergy between our ancestry. They developed schools, mathematics, etc. I told y'all, get the book Saga America by Dr. Barry Fell, because all of this information is recorded inside of it. Because people are going to start arguing with you Like you might get into an argument with these Black Indians. Our ancestors were not Moors. Okay, we're gonna let you argue with these rock artifacts, everything that was left. You have to deal with that. We already light years ahead of y'all Black Indians. Y'all trying to create a cult. We are trying to continue to create and develop governing systems. Precession of the equinoxes. The earth has a wobble. And astronomers are not telling you what the wobble is really about. Let's go back. We can show you what the wobble is about. You see how this earth is tilted? So when it's over here and it's tilted like this, the northern hemisphere is experiencing summer and the southern hemisphere is experiencing winter. Now, generally speaking, there is no north and south. We say north and south because it's convenient. But if you're down here, up is always out. Period. So we're on a sphere, but we use these terms conveniently. But when we're over here, the pole is not drawn to the sun, it's drawn to something else. So in the north, we're experiencing winter, and the south, we're experiencing summer. But when we get to the point of the winter solstice, it's the most holy moment. And this is why we had the Inti Rama festival in the west and the what we calling Laylat al-Qadr or Ramadan, in the east. It is because the pole is pointing towards what we're calling black hole, the Sagittarius A constellation that the Earth and Sun are all going around. That space, that place has more magnetic force than the sun. In fact, it is causing the sun to revolve around it. This is why the pole is pointing that way. And so as the Earth and the sun go in a circle around it, when the sun is on one side of it, right, it's pointing that way. By the time say 15,000 years from now, we're on the other side, the planet will be pointing inward towards the Sagittarius A constellation. This is how you get the slow wobble that you see here. What looks like a wobble, okay? There it is again. And we can chart those pole stars, right? Our ancestors called this constellation Amaru, the constellation that never sets. It showed that they knew the calendar system. We have the most advanced calendar system in the West. All right, there's 7 stars in the pole stars, and they change about every 3,714 years. All right. And our She ancestors had all of this stuff down pat. They even had names for each one of the polar directions, etc. So I'm just giving you some of the history. When we go over to the east, they knew what the dog star was. They knew what Orion was. They knew what celestial astronomy, and they put it literally into the monuments. This is not a Ned or a pharaoh. This is a constellation stele representing Orion. Orion represents the equatorial belt, the celestial equator. This is how we are able to get the 90 plates that we have using the celestial equator and the Earth's equator to calculate it. So we know the cards were based on astronomy, the fact that they have 90 plates, because there's 90 degrees from the celestial and the Earth equator to the pole, going in both directions. That's mathematics. Those plates are mathematics, literally. All right. So we go further. This is how we find our birth card or our sun card using the days. Legislative writing that the Moors and the Aboriginals rule Mexico. I got a book from Dr. Barry Fell As a matter of fact, let me put this in context. I used to do translations for the Epigraphical Society, which was a magazine that Dr. Barry Fell and others ran. And I got asked to translate some script. And I did so. And so I'm saying that to say that the publication in the book, Saga America, discuss y'all know I use the word Kara for this language because it's not Arabic, but the Arabia found throughout the American South and the American Southwest. I'm talking Nevada, New Mexico, California, all over. And so this is where we go to whether or not Abu Bakari and Mansa Musa's 2,000 ships actually made it. They did. They made it here to the Yucatan, and they named the city after the sheikh, and they made it here throughout the Americas, and they left writing. And that's the important part. And so we have indigenous Africans, indigenous Americans interacting, plant, cultural interactions for thousands of years. So this explains what couldn't be explained about population growth with an isolated group of Eurasians here for 30,000 or 15,000 years. It wasn't possible. But now if you have Americans and Africans interacting, mating, sharing culture, the world can stay smaller and you can get we have mountains and mountains, Himalaya mountains of proofs that Black Americans were here, remained here, and their haplogroups A, B, E, were here, and they got displaced by haplogroups Q and C from Asia. And we can prove these things through genetic testing today.
Yo, I just realized, that was brother, I know Chief Ali, but he used to go by another name, Ali Muhammad, right? If y'all know him from back in the day, he's a old school. He's an OG. He's an OG in the game as well. But he's always had some Jews. So y'all check that out. Y'all listen to them Jews and do some study. Like everything, I'm not here to say that these are all factual. What we're doing is we're showing you the vast information about Moors. And so it's up to you to check those receipts. You feel me? Check those receipts like you the Walmart greeter. You know what I mean? And make sure you do your homework, your due diligence, But a lot of what they've been saying is similar, that we were here and they know that we were here, whether we was here because we came here, hundreds of years before the Europeans got here, or, people saying that we were already here. You know what I mean? So regardless, we was here before they were. And there was a lot going on before the Europeans got here. You know what I'm saying? So before we go to the next video, please we're gonna do an ad. We're gonna take a break, do an ad. We'll be right back. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yes, knowledge is for the people. Get your books today on indigenousmoors.org, your one-stop shop for indigenous needs.
So let's get right back into it. The next video.
Okay, on today's episode of All Facts, No Cap, I'm going to be telling y'all why African Americans are not U.S. citizens. Come on, follow me. All right, first we're going to look at the Moroccan Treaty of 1787. Morocco formally recognized the United States by signing a treaty of peace and friendship in 1786, a document that remains the longest unbroken relationship in the U.S. history. Full diplomatic relations begin in 1905. Boom. Where's Morocco? Africa, right? See that down there? Africa. Now, y'all remember they told us about Pangea, right? When we was younger, about when all the continents was together before they had their shift, right? Before, after, all right? All right, now let's zoom in. Where's North America? Where's the United States? Boom, connected to Africa, right by where what? Morocco was at. Now, see, they're trying to convince you that they pulled up over here, they beat us up, they enslaved us. But wait a minute. Morocco was one of the first countries to recognize the newly independent United States, opening its supports to American ships by decree of Sultan Muhammad Il in 1777. Morocco formally recognized the United States by signing a treaty of peace and friendship in 1786, a document that remains the longest unbroken relationship in U.S. history. Full diplomatic relations began in 1905. Morocco entered into the status of French whatever from 1912 to 1956, and normal diplomatic relations reassumed after the U.S. recognition of Moroccan independence in 1956. The two countries have been long history of working together bilaterally, and my thumb's in the way. But you get the point. They came to us. Now, when you get into it and you start reading the articles, this is when they let you know that we're not U.S. citizens, all right? Let's read Article 21. If a citizen of the United States that shall kill or wound a Moor, or on the contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place and equal justice shall be rendered. So basically what I'm explaining to you is the more you study this and the more you get into this, you will understand that the United States were reporting to Morocco. They got their juice from us. You see what I'm saying? They've been doing business with us. They try to tell us and implement in our brain that, we were slaves, when no, they were reporting to us. This is our land. This is our sauce. All of this. Come on, man. Stop playing Monopoly. Get up. You are not a U.S. citizen. You're a god. You're a goddess. You're a king. You're a queen. This is your land. You should not be.
All right. All right. So look, he's saying, you're not a U.S. citizen. Y'all agree? I know as Moors, we don't look at ourselves solely as a U.S. citizen. There's a lot behind the term U.S. citizen. All right. So it's more than one USA, right? So y'all get into that. Y'all study that. I'm not even gonna get into it. I'm gonna let y'all soak it up. But now, look, I'm gonna hit y'all with some OGs. We're gonna end this off with a couple OGs in the building. All right. Shout out to Queen Bahara. Okay. She is she always dropping jewels. And I'm gonna tell you something. I watched this years ago and I thought she was dropping jewels. And now that I've understand even more, it's like she making way more sense now than she was ever back in the day. So y'all check this out.
Status, for the record, you can't bring your law into the court. So there can be no court. So status is very important. And so if you're Moor, and let's say somebody else is Manchurian, and I'll get to that in a minute. When you have two people of different standings in the courtroom, you have to decide what law applies. Is there a treaty between the two? Do they have a...
Yo, I apologize for the video if it's a little lower. Some, this is an old video. This is off VHS, all right? So it might be a little low. The other one might be, but bear with me, okay? Apologize for that.
Constitution, do they have any other trade agreement or contract that binds them and obligates the parties? That's the question. All right? So if you walk into the courtroom and they immediately start adjudicating, you have no idea what law they're using. And I guarantee you, because status has not been established for the record, they're not using any law that applies to you. And they're not using any law that applies to them. They're simply using corporate policy, which is discretionary, okay? So status and then jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is going to determine what geographical area encompasses the authority that judge or that court has. All right? So if you're in a municipal court or a court of common pleas, don't go in there talking about the Constitution, because they don't have jurisdiction to discuss the Constitution with you. Do not go into a state court discussing the Constitution unless it's the state's Constitution, because the United States' Constitution, they have no jurisdiction over, but they won't tell you that. They'll dismiss the case. Different jurisdictions. And don't go into federal court talking about city ordinances. You understand the difference? Okay, jurisdiction. Then adjudication. Once you get to the part about adjudication, you have to answer the question, do you understand the law that applies to you, that applies to this matter? Because there's two types of jurisdiction, jurisdiction over the matter and jurisdiction over the person. All right? Does the court have both? They must have both in order to proceed. They don't tell you these things, but this is very important. So if the court has gotten to the point of adjudication, all right, which for me, I don't have that problem. But once the court gets to the point of adjudication, then they're ready to start prosecuting. They're ready to find you guilty of something, some kind of way. And the reason for that is because it's a business. And once you enter there and they seize jurisdiction over you, they adjudicate for the sole purpose of getting some money. That's the bottom line. They don't care about you, whether you're innocent or whether you're guilty, none of that. How much money are they going to get out of this? And their little club that they have called the Bar Association, their members have to be fed. So they want to make sure that this one gets fed and that one gets fed. And that's fine, because that's their corporate thing. That's the way they make money. And if they're going to make money being deceitful and all that, that's the karmic baggage they've got to carry. But you don't want to be a participant to it. That's all. Okay. Color of law. Colorable, color means something that pretends to be something that it's not. Colorable court, colorable money, colorable law, colorable people. Any people who call themselves colored, Negro, African American, Indian, Puerto Rican, Chinese, Australian, all of these are colorable labels, but these people for the most part around the world don't even know this. But because they call themselves Chinese, as I was getting ready to say to you, they are part of a corporate nation state as well, because the country of China is Manchuria. The nation state, the corporate ward nation state is China. That is not the country or the sovereignty of the people. The people are Manchurian. All right? You understand? Say anybody who wants to call themselves Puerto Rican. Puerto Rico is a corporate nation state. It is a private nonprofit corporation that has a charter issued by the Moors, where they have the authority to conduct commerce and trade on the island of Borincano. Borinqua, right? Borinqua. That's the name of the people. Borincano is the name of the island. Puerto Rico is the private nonprofit corporation that has the charter to operate within the geographical boundaries of Borincano. Most Puerto Ricans don't even know that. I go around telling people all the time, you're not this, you're not that. This is who you really are, because people have grown up into slavery for generation after generation in all these corporate nation states who belong to the United Nations, which is a private nonprofit corporation, trade association for nation state corporations. Got it? In order to belong to the United Nations, you have to be a corporate ward state, nation state. Otherwise, they don't want you. And they will go to war against a country and take the people out of their sovereign capacity and say they're setting up democracy all around the world so that they can take people out of their sovereign capacity and take them away from the law and impose corporate statute on them. And that's exactly what they do. All right? Now, color of law is in full swing all around the world. All around the world. And they have a clique where they're all intermingled and they all agree to participate together in this game, right? Now, it doesn't matter where you go. Just like most people think you need a passport to travel from company to company to company that are called nation states. So you do need a passport if you call yourself Black or African American or a U.S. citizen or any of those things. Yes, you need a passport to travel from one corporate nation state to another. But when you're traveling from one country to another, you do not need a passport. And those countries will tell you you don't. Depends on what you call yourself. You understand? Okay. Why do we have colorable law and colorable courts? During the Civil War, the Moors went to war against each other. Now, we destroyed ourselves in this. The Europeans did not come here and bring us down. We did that from inside, and they capitalized on the carnage. Do you understand? All of these buildings all around here, as I told in class last night, they're ours. They belong to us. They're ancient, these buildings. There's a whole city underneath this city. They went and burned all the major cities, the major energy centers on this globe we call an earth. Our ancestors set up these energy centers that we call Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Atlanta, Detroit, right? Chicago, Miami, Phoenix, Los Angeles. They are energy centers. They're not where they are in huge, large cities just because of some coincidence. There's energy and power in these places. London, Rio de Janeiro, all right? And by the way, we're going to spell it like this, Rio de. Day, which is a normal title of the Moors, Rio de Janeiro. You understand? This thing is worldwide. This flag that we carry with the red flag, with the 5-pointed green star, with the pointing up, all right, is a worldwide flag. It's recognized all around the world, all right? So the reason we have colorable courts and colorable law is because during the Civil War, when the Moors warred against each other, there were those who agreed to participate in the game called the corporate ward game. And there were many who made a lot of money. They got a commission on everybody they got to sign a birth certificate, because the birth certificate is a contract that puts you in slavery. And they got money. William Penn got very rich, all right? All the Quakers got very rich. All the abolitionists got very rich on this Civil War ward state game. Robert Morris and a lot of these buildings that are named after these people in downtown Philadelphia became multimillionaires, and their ancestors are still wealthy today over the corporate ward game. All right? Now, the reason that we have to have colorable law and colorable courts is because so many of us agree to be slaves. We don't need colorable courts and colorable law otherwise. But the people who agree to be bound by the 14th Amendment, which covers civil rights, which covers Negroes and African Americans and Jews and Hispanics and Indians and all these people like that, if you agree to call yourself that, they have to create a statute that applies to you, because law doesn't apply to you. So it's not their fault. It's the fault of the people who agree to be outside of their sovereign capacity. Okay? And now, if you walk in and you want to reestablish it, they're at odds because they're not accustomed to people walking in who are conscious and sovereign. You can't separate the two when you walk into a courtroom. And when I say you walk in on your square, I don't mean standing with your feet at a right angle. All right? I mean not to be deterred when you know you're in and you have law on your side. Do not back down. But you do not have to be belligerent. Trust me, I've been there. Don't do that. Okay? Now, the law of the land. The law of the land, as it applies to the United States of America and the United States, is their Constitution. The law of the land, which supersedes that, which if you go and read the supremacy clause of the Constitution, you will see that the treaty, in particular the Treaty of 1787, which was last signed.
Queen V, she go in. If y'all haven't seen her, if you haven't watched this video in its entirety, I suggest you find this whole video. I had her on my last TikTok video. Like she got the jewels, and like I said, when I was coming into this and I'm studying her, she sound great, but the more I understand law, I understand exactly what she mean, and it's crazy because she's right, on a lot of what she's saying. So I don't know. So this is the last one right here. We're gonna get into this one. This is Hakeem Bey. If y'all haven't watched any of his the Moorish Paradigm, check out his publishing on the what's called the Moorish Paradigm, I believe, right? But look up Hakeem Bey. All right. But I'm gonna let my man get into it real quick. Y'all please like and share.
That's why when you look on the back of dollar bill, you see there's two seals here. This is the only nation with a two-sided seal. This seal you see here with the pyramid is the seal of our ancestors and our federal government that we have set up in here in this hemisphere going way back. This is the seal of the 6 European tribes that we allowed to set up here. That is why above our seal says Annuit Correctus. He had favored our undertaking. I mean, it was our federal government here that was already established, what they call Iroquois Confederacy, so on and so forth, was already established, that taught them the science of government and allowed them to set up here. And you see this flag has 6 white stripes and 7 red. And the elders taught us that those 6 white stripes stands for the British, the Irish, the Scottish, the French, the Dutch, and the German. 6 European tribes that we allowed to sit up here. And all they had initially was the eastern seaboard. The rest was ours. The elders also taught us some things. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but do the research and you're going to be surprised at what you find. The elders taught us that the original Nile was here. Old man Mississippi, the Missouri being the blue and the Ohio being the white. And until this day, where them two come together, there's a city there called Cairo to this day. And that area is called Little Egypt. Then you go down into what the elders taught us was Alabama, so on and so forth, being Lower Egypt. Then you get into Memphis, Tennessee, the Memphite theology. Kentucky, King Tut. And then you start to look a little further, and then you find out that there was an archaeological cover-up involving the Smithsonian Institute, where they found thousands and thousands of artifacts. They found artifacts showing human beings contemporary with dinosaurs. A lot of this information they put on ships and dumped into the Atlantic Ocean. Some of it they got still in hidden chambers that they say you can't go in there because it got asbestos and it's unsafe. There's a part of the Grand Canyon where they have all Egyptian names, Tet, Osiris, Isis, and they got that part blocked off. They said it's too dangerous for the people to go there. To this day, this exists.
Yo, so, I hope you enjoyed it, man. That's pretty much the end of it. Like I said, Hakeem be dropping it. You know, it's a lot of knowledge. It's a lot of history that we don't know over here. And I'm the first to admit, you know, I'm not always here saying that, you know, that they were here first or anything. But there's a lot of history in the Americas that need to be looked at and need to be studied. So I hope you guys, enjoy this video. Like I said, please share this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next video. Until then, y'all stay up. Peace and love. Tutanana.